This July 14th public hearing of the City of Prescott. Folks, please,
Okay.
I hereby call to order this July 14th, 2023 public hearing of the City of Prescott Preservation Commission. The members of the commission that are present are James McCarver, Richard Sprang, Diane Travis, Rob Johnson, and I am Michael Mirko, your chair. This is an open public hearing and is being videotaped by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representative of the public media, local cable and or radio stations, and may be also rebroadcast. We don't have a real big overflow, but there is a secondary location if necessary at the police department, keeping that in mind. So the numbers of the commission are 5. This is a study session only. There will be no voting taking place today. We will just hash out what we need to hash out. If you're going to speak, please limit to 3 minutes. We will be timing, and you will give a 30-minute or 30-second notice prior to me asking you to step down. If someone ahead of you has made the same point that you want to make, please let them make it and you stand down. This meeting could go for an hour or it can go all day. So let's not be redundant in what we're doing. And let's keep it civil. No outbursts, no profanity, no yelling. We have a policeman in the back, and I won't hesitate to ask him to remove you. Okay, keeping that in mind, please turn off all your electronic devices. Our agenda will be the approval of last month's minutes. So if we have any discussion there, any adds or not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes of July, or I'm sorry?
It was May,
May.
so 2 months
May
ago.
12th, was it?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Diane Travis, I move to approve the meetings from the May 12th.
Second?
Rick Sprain, second.
Accepted. When you do get up to speak to the podium, and please state your name for the records. I believe at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to, oh wait, I forgot to announce our staff members. There's our historian, Kaylee Nunez, George Worley, our planning manager. Tammy DeWitt, I believe, is at the police station helping over there. We have Chelsea Walton, our community development director. We have Councilman Moore. We have our recording secretary, Sarah Hilton. Boy, this is a big roster. Kathy Rusing is one of our council. And Courtney Cantanelli? Or Connie, I'm sorry.
You can tell me.
I'm sorry, ma'am. And of course, our mayor, Phil Good. And if I have forgotten anybody, I apologize. Now, at this point, I'll turn the meeting over.
Thank you, Chair Mirko. Good morning, commissioners and public. My name is Kaylee Nunez. I am the Historic Preservation Specialist for the City of Prescott. Today, we will be discussing a proposal for the Prescott Plaza Hotel at 136, 138, and 140 South Montezuma Street. Again, I want to emphasize this is an introduction and study session only. No formal action will be taken. I will be doing a presentation followed by the applicant. We will then open up the meeting to comment from the public. So just start with the photo on the top left is the building in 1905. It's the building on the very left. And then bottom right is a rendering of the proposed hotel, 5 stories, 55 rooms, with an open-air terrace on the 3rd floor. So we'll just take a quick trip down memory lane here, some more older photos. Top left is 1905 again. I've circled the building in question. Bottom right is 1940s. So the Sanborn fire maps indicate that it was a saloon and gambling hall when it was first built after the Great Fire of 1900. It remained some form of saloon and gathering hall with lodging until about mid-20th century. After which restaurant and retail shops have occupied the building. Right now it houses 3 retail shops, Mountain Spirit Gallery, the Harley Davidson shop, and Wild at Heart. So here's a photo existing. And so the existing building is not on the National Register of Historic Places. The majority of it was reconstructed after the great snowstorm of 1967. It is, however, an integral part of Whiskey Row and would be eligible for National Register nomination at this point. It consists of 3 storefronts set into a traditional red brick facade with banding relief above. And the current building is harmonious with Whiskey Row. It does not compete with adjacent historic structures. So previous actions. This project was previously brought to the March 2022 Preservation Commission. At that meeting, the commission and public largely expressed opposition. So key concerns, I've listed the key concerns that were expressed at that meeting, including being too large, scale and massing issues, negative impacts on nearby business owners, and the importance of preservation for future generations. So the applicant chose not to proceed to a voting session at that time and modified the design as a result. So here is the current request, demolishing the existing building. Again, 5 stories with 55 rooms. The rear of the hotel facing the alley will feature a mercantile shop as well as a secondary entrance for staff and guests. The height will be 48 to the top of the 5th floor and 53 feet to the top of the elevator overrun. And we'll see more renderings of that coming up. So building depth is approximately 150 feet, so it spans the entire depth of the parcel. They're proposing to use granite, sandstone, and brick veneer for exterior finishes, as well as feature canvas awnings on those 1st and 2nd floor windows. It does exemplify some historic architectural details with cornices, friezes, and lintels. So here's an architectural elevation. Again, top of 5th floor, about 48 feet, and then the elevator overrun at 53. It is 50 feet wide. So just a couple perspective renderings. This one would be from like the northeast, like if you were standing outside of Drawn West, kind of the Gurley and Montezuma corner. Actually, I'll let you look at it a little longer. Okay, so here's an elevation of the Whiskey Row streetscape, as well as northeast and southeast perspectives, and a southern facing elevation. And you'll see in there that they put the courthouse measurements on next to the south-facing elevation. So it calls the roof of the post office at 75 feet and the roof of the courthouse at 74 feet, as well as the roof of St. Michael's being at 43 feet and the roof of the palace topping out at 42 feet. Okay, so analysis. So In the staff report packet, there's a much more detailed analysis. I did about 7 pages, but I'm going to kind of hit the high notes here. There are 5 principal elements in the Prescott Historic Preservation Master Plan that I reviewed the proposed design against. They are demolition, materials and details, windows and doors, siding, scale massing, and building size. So the project meets the principal master plan criteria on demolition, as the current building is not on the National Register. However, demolition guidelines state that the owner still needs consent from the Preservation Commission, and that replacing buildings shall be of similar scale and massing to contributing buildings in the district. And then the project meets most master plan criteria for architectural characteristics, including the incorporation of masonry on all facades. However, the sandstone proposed on the first and second floor facade is not present on other buildings on the row, and it might create a pronounced contrast. The details such as the cornices, friezes, and lintels are compatible with the district. So windows and doors, project largely meets criteria for windows and doors. Although, and we'll look at a closer view of this. On the front facade, the 4th and 5th floor windows could have their vertical orientation enhanced by separating the pairs of windows. The master plan emphasizes vertical orientation of windows and doors quite a few times. It is also recommended that the front door would incorporate wood framing. Okay. The project partially meets the criteria for siding, which is a correction to my staff report. I wanted to point that out. I indicated fully meets criteria. So the step back on the 3rd floor terrace is not typical. Generally, buildings on Whiskey Row have a 0 setback beyond the 2nd floor. And then last but not least, the project does not meet the criteria for scale massing and building size. So, though the bulk of the building tops out at 48 feet, there is the elevator overrun, which is 53 feet. It does create visual interest despite being set halfway back on the building. I wish I had a laser. You can probably see it there. It's set back, which diminishes its impact, but it doesn't completely mitigate it. There are also no district guidelines for beyond 3 stories for the Courthouse Plaza district. So the proposed design is out of scale and massing with other buildings, especially the adjacent buildings, and it will be the tallest building on Whiskey Row. The architectural features, though compatible in style, will appear to be large in comparison with the more intimate scale of the row. So I also wanted to point out that the district guidelines have a list of threats to character in them. And among those is the demolition of historic resources to make way for larger commercial and business uses, which could degrade the scale of the district and result in loss of historic resources. Again, while the current building is not on the National Register, it would be eligible at this point. Because when they did the nomination forms for this district and most of Prescott, that was in the 90s. So the buildings, some of them were not old enough to meet the criteria at that time. So I took a look at height to width ratios. I kind of like math. But in general, the wider the building, the taller it can be. So most height to width ratios on the Whiskey Row and the Courthouse Plaza district are around 1.5 to 2 times as wide as they are tall. There are some exceptions, and I'll point it out, namely the Knights of Pythias building, which is where the TIS Annex is very narrow and tall. Guidelines assume an average story height of 12 feet, believe the hotel, and I can have the applicant clarify, the third, fourth, and fifth stories are 9 feet. Well, we'll get to that.
8 feet, and then with structural members, they go to about 10 feet.
Okay, between 8 and 10 feet. So here's a table with the height to width ratios. So, I did them in ascending order. So you'll see like the courthouse, St. Michael's, Palace are kind of around 0.5. Then the post office in the Grand Highland kind of get up there. The Knights of Pythias is like the statistical outlier at 1.84. So the Plaza Hotel, if you calculate it to the top of the 5th floor, it's around 0.96, and top of the elevator run is 1.06. And so I just kind of wanted to quantify that. There is no golden ratio in the master plan guidelines, but it's just kind of helpful to look at as a whole where the buildings in the district are. So I did send the entire submittal package to the State Historic Preservation Office, and they did a complimentary analysis. Their architect, Susan Lawson. So she applied 3 of the Secretary of Interior standards, which are the national standards for historic preservation. So the project met standards 3 and 10 in entirety, but standard 9 was not met. And I'll read what standard 9 says. New additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. So in this case, the property is a district. So more specifically, standard 9 was not met, though the placement and use are appropriate. The density and respectfulness of the character of the district are challenged. Also, the state architect noted that the rhythm of Whiskey Row would be interrupted by the height as well as material choices at the sidewalk level, namely the sandstone. So her recommendation said consider matching heights of extant adjacent horizontal features and brick facade into smaller elements consistent with the scale of surrounding buildings. Public input. So we mailed out notices to all address points within a half mile of the courthouse plaza. That was 1,218 notices. We sent those out on June 26th. Also coordinated with the Daily Courier. They published an article on the front page last Friday. I received 43 responses, mostly email, a couple phone calls. This was as of yesterday around 4:30. I did not get a chance to go to my email this morning. I was a little busy. So there were 42 opposed and 1 in support. And so the biggest issues were height, character of plaza, parking/traffic. Also, there were a handful of people who did like the design. They liked the project. They just said it belongs, at an alternate site. So with that, I am going to hand over the presentation to the applicant, Jim Grissett, unless the commission would like to ask me any questions at this time. No? Okay, we'll just go on to the applicant's presentation. Yes, come on.
Thanks.
So you'll have to know down is the next slide.
Oh, down?
Down to go to the next, so
Okay.
here we go.
So let's just
I'll stand
go.
by.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the new design. So
Oh,
which
you want to
slide?
go, do you want to go
Just,
back to
I
my
just want to put
presentation?
that up there. In other words, the new
This?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so you have 6 slides here, I'll show you.
Okay, back up. Oh, good.
So you can
Back
go
up to the top.
that.
Okay, great.
Okay, and I'll stand here.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate you showing up today. Oh, okay. Okay, thanks. Well, it's been 16 months since I last appeared before the Preservation Commission, and at that time, many concerns and ideas were expressed. And in the interim, we have redesigned the hotel and made every effort to respect the Historic Preservation Master Plan. The redesign presented here today, and Kaylee, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you. Okay. All right, can you hear me now? Sorry about that. I have such a strong voice, I just kind of assume people can always hear me. Anyway, the redesign presented today includes the following modifications and improvements. One, we eliminated the 6th-floor rooftop terrace. It had featured 2 guest rooms, storage, 2 elevators with a foyer, American flag tower with hotel logo, glass parapet, and 2 stairwells. 2, the upper floors are now finished with brick veneer, and I think we've got samples here that you can look at. 3, the guest room ceiling heights have been reduced from 9 feet down to 8 feet. The glass parapet at the 3rd floor wine bar terrace has been replaced with a metal balcony railing of an historically compatible design. Likewise for the guest room balcony railings facing the plaza. The awnings are now a color more in keeping with Whiskey Row. The lower level windows and doors on the Whiskey Row Alley facades will be custom-made wood Heritage Series by Colby Windows and Doors. And as a result of architectural and steel structural engineering expertise and innovation, we have reduced the height of the hotel by 19 feet to its new height of 47.8 feet. And you can see on the renderings that you've already seen, and let me see if I can do this. That was the height we were at, and now we're down like that. And I was told at the last meeting the magic number was 48 feet, and 48 feet is where we are today, actually less than 48 feet. Here's the back of the hotel as it is today, or the back of the property, I guess I should say. I bought this from the Barrett family a number of years ago, and actually the only thing left of the original building is a disintegrating floor, which is in pretty bad shape structurally and aesthetically, and that rear wall, which has already been covered up, and parts of that wall are 120 years old. So that's what it looks like right now. The back of the hotel is finished off in the same quality as the front of the hotel. And this rendering shows that we've now used brick veneer for the, let me back up. Brick veneer for the upper floors. So when the Knights of Pythias, or Pythias, I guess I should say, the Knights of Pythias, Hassayampa, Grand Highlands, St. Michael's, Palace, Courthouse, and the post office were built, they were truly destined to become the historic landmark buildings that they are today. Over time, the Prescott Plaza Hotel will more than likely achieve the same status. This hotel is for the people of Prescott, Yavapai County, and all those who visit from near and far. It will be something you can be proud of, and for you and your family and guests to enjoy, and a new reason to go downtown. The neighboring and surrounding businesses, along with the city of Prescott, will benefit from the guests who are attracted to the Prescott Plaza Hotel, a boutique hotel. Weddings, anniversaries, birthdays, graduations, memories, corporate events, and other events will be celebrated at the hotel. With its Steinway Concert Grand Piano, music events and concerts for both young and old will be offered year-round to entertain guests and locals alike. Just imagine Acre Night or Christmas at the Prescott Plaza Hotel. The inviting and heated third-floor Skyview Terrace and Wine Bar will be a magnificent gathering place for guests and Prescottonians to enjoy an afternoon or evening out while enjoying a light bill of fare, while socializing and watching what's going on below and on the plaza. The hotel offers an inviting atmosphere and is a perfect example of historic infill architecture. With its location centered on Whiskey Row at the Courthouse Crosswalk, facing one of the top 10 public spaces in America, this is not just another hotel. Because its site is on the axis with the courthouse, it should be a monumental building. The town deserves nothing less. It's not about me, it's about you, your family, your guests, your loved ones, and visitors to Prescott.
Folks.
It's a gift to the city of Prescott. In 25 years, I'll more than likely be dust. But the Prescott Plaza Hotel will still be here, providing time-honored hospitality to the community, because it's the one and only Prescott Plaza Hotel. Thank you. Any questions?
I think we have some questions.
Oh, great.
Actually, I enjoyed your speech, but this is a Historic Preservation Commission and not a PR situation. Folks, please. I have a couple of concerns. One, you are putting in a basement.
Yes.
Have there been any studies as to what the ground is? Is it?
Yes, soils tests have been completed on the property, and once it's demolished, additional soils tests borings will be taken underneath the existing building.
All right, my concern is, and if there is granite, which is everywhere, demolition, and what that demolition will do to the buildings on either side, and as you excavate and go 10 feet down, and it's a 90-degree, you're inches from those buildings. What impact will that have on the foundations of those buildings? Have we looked into that?
Okay, well, first of all, it's a very good question. It's probably one of the best questions of all concerning building a new building. If you'll notice on the plan, we're not excavating straight down on the property line. We're coming in a distance from the property line so that it'll minimize any particular impact in those areas. However, where the elevators and stairwells are will be closer to the property line. And naturally, when you have a situation like this, to protect the adjacent properties, which we're deeply concerned about, there'll be shoring that takes place, and the engineers will engineer a system whereby we will not hurt the adjacent buildings where we get close to them. And as far as the borings that have been done, we've found no problems in the area. If they'd have gone down and found huge granite blocks or boulders, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I have another question.
Sure.
As you excavate this basement, obviously there's bulldozers, dump trucks. How will you transport this out of that area?
Just like any normal excavation.
What street would you use?
Well, obviously you have to go down the alley. And like all the vehicles that currently service all the businesses on Whiskey Row, and the excavation by a local general contractor will deal with that in the most efficient, expedient manner without causing any inconvenience, or as much inconvenience as possible.
Another question, sir.
Yeah.
How long will this project take?
The beauty of this project is that we're going to build it in a factory. The steel modular construction that we plan on using will dramatically reduce the construction time. On site, we'll build the basement and lobby and wine bar. The lid over that part of the building will have embedded steel plates to which the modules are welded. The modules will be, one module is a guest room, a corridor, and a guest room. And those modules will be finished in the modular factory with the brick exterior all done. The rooms, when shipped, are finished and ready for guests. And I've been to numerous factories that build these. I've been to numerous Marriott and Hilton sites where they're stacking these buildings. It's kind of like Legos. And it works beautifully, and it cuts the time down. The estimated time to stack the upper portion of the hotel is 1 week. And that's finished. No scaffolding, no nothing. The building stacks up, and then they connect all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing in the corridors.
Well, my original question, how long will it take to build the basement and the first floor?
Yeah, the basement and the first floor is probably about 6 months.
So for 6 months, you're going to tie up the alleyway?
The alleyway would be tied up just like it would be if any building had a problem on the Whiskey Road that had to be rebuilt.
Another question?
How do you get the footage of it? You've reduced all the rooms down.
Yeah, what
8
we-
feet. How about the first 3 floors?
Okay, when you build modularly, it's on they're modules. Imagine Lego bricks, okay? So initially, we had interior room heights of 9 feet. So by lowering that down to 8 feet, we saved 1 foot per floor. In addition, with structural engineering and architectural techniques, we were able to compress the structural members that are part of each module. So by doing that, we were able to save a lot of height. And then regarding your question about the lower floors, we were able to pick up another 10 inches by recessing the 10-inch structural members of the first floor modules into the basement area. So we picked up another 10 inches. So overall, with all those considerations and analyses, we ended up with the 48.8 feet or whatever it is. There's pretty clever engineering, and the structural engineering company that I use has done hotels for Marriott, Hilton, apartment buildings. They're very used to engineering for modular construction. It's a whole different animal. It's nothing new. Modular construction has probably been going on for over 100 years. At this time, Marriott and Hilton are building tons of hotels and factories.
And the roof will not be used at all?
No, it's just a roof.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so any more questions for the applicant? If not, we're going to open it up to public comment. And I'll have Sarah Hilton, our recording secretary, assist with that.
I'm just going to call your name and come up to the microphone here. Mel Roop.
Thank you. My name is Mel Roop. I'm a resident of Prescott. The reason I'm here today is I have a great interest in city planning and good city planning, especially in historic areas. My resume includes I was on the Planning and Zoning Committee for the city of Prescott when I was in private. Before I retired, I was a city planner and a planning consultant for public and private agencies and major developers in California and Hawaii. So I have seen a lot of developers' presentations and projects. I've been on both sides of the aisle there. I've got a copy of your entire report, all 30 pages or whatever it is. I want to compliment your staff. She did an excellent job presenting this project in a short period of time. Did a very good job.
Thank you.
So to simplify the process, if you take what she said and you read page 9 of your staff report that lists previous key concerns that were brought up with the previous project, which is very hard to tell from the new one if you just look at the 2 photos that were presented. Those 9 concerns still apply. Any changes in how many bricks are on the building or what window manufacturers used are irrelevant to the key issues here. Also, the experience I have is relevant to this project. I'm a member of the Renegades, and we're down at Whiskey Row every Saturday to talk to the tourists, and we've learned a lot from them and residents of the state what's important to them. They don't want to come down and see a hotel taking up space on Whiskey Row that should be on Gurley or Highway 69 or Phoenix. There's going to be a lot of demand for hotel projects because this is such a great place to visit. But there are other areas zoned in the city already that are more appropriate for this hotel. The economic lifeblood of downtown is Whiskey Row and the area around the courthouse. It needs to be inviting
30
to the
seconds.
visitors. They don't want to come and see a hotel that they can see anywhere else. They want to see something unique. We've talked to a lot of them in the last few years. This project is no more closer to being compatible with Whiskey Row than the one from a year ago, and all of the negative concerns still apply, and I'm sure you'll hear them all today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mick Fennick.
Good morning, Commission members. Nice to be here with you this morning. I'm here primarily as someone who looked at the plans, and my background is in food and beverage hospitality, hotel hospitality. I served on numerous boards for the American Hotel and Motel Association, a certified food and beverage executive and instructor. I was a general manager and director of operations for the Prescott Resort for 12 years, where during my tenure there, we were named the #1 mid-sized Arizona resort 3 times in 2 different categories, and were in the top 10. In 2003, I was the Arizona State Hotelier of the Year, and was very proud to receive that honor. I looked at this project from the standpoint of how it operates. I was fortunate enough to meet Jim a few years ago. I also worked for the city of Prescott for 14 years before I retired. I had 10 divisions. Nobody has ever had that many divisions before or since. And one of those divisions was facilities. And being a hotelier and knowing how the interior of a space has to work, I was really impressed with what I saw. This hotel from the interior, when you walk in, the lobby, beautiful lobby, the concert grand piano on the balcony to welcome guests. People, in Prescott, they like to come up early on a Saturday morning. They like to come up at 10 o'clock in the morning. They want to get out of the valley. They want to come up, and typically hotels aren't ready until between 1 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon because they have to turn the rooms from the night before. This operator here has made provisions for that. He has places for them to store their things. The rooms are really pretty incredible. When you look at the interior of the rooms, which I have looked at that, and by the way, I don't work for the man, I'm retired, I ain't working. I just want to make that clear to everybody. But I've looked at how, housekeepers have to go in and clean a room, and they have to turn the rooms over quickly. These rooms are incredible. There are no legs. The nightstands come out from
30
the walls.
seconds.
Am I getting low? Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, also he's made provisions for Whiskey Row Marathon, Whiskey Row bike races in the basement where they have lockers. There's just a lot of thought, and technologically speaking, this will be the most advanced hotel in the state of Arizona. Okay, thank you.
Katie Parker.
I'm Katie's husband, Steve. Thank you for letting us speak. Has anybody in this room been here longer than 30 years? Quite a few. It's quite a few of us. I've been here 29. Seen a lot of change. I'm sorry, but you've got a nice thing here, but it's not Whiskey Row. It's just not. One of the things that we all take pride in is historic Whiskey Row, not historic looking. And I think you guys have to take that into account as well. Certain things happen in life, and I'm sorry, I'm nervous, that we don't like. Sometimes we breathe in, we breathe out, and we move on. Let the people speak. Maybe it's time, breathe in, breathe out, and move on. Thank you.
Stan Souls. Stan Souls.
Good morning. My name's Stan Souls. I'm a resident of Prescott. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak here this morning. I don't really have anything else to say beyond what's been said already and what many of these other people are going to say after me. But sitting here, I'm struck with the thing that came to my mind was a quote by a famous American thinker. That was Yogi Berra. And this is just deja vu all over again. Thank you.
Dave Kruger. Dave Kruger.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, and that was a nice presentation, by the way. I think your hotel is very beautiful, but like everybody else, it doesn't belong on Whiskey Row. We have 6 hotels in the area, 2 of them on Montezuma, and then we have 4 more within easy walking distance of downtown Prescott. I just don't feel like we need another hotel. I'm a native Arizona. We bought our property here in Prescott in 1990, built a house in 96, and I like coming down and looking at the shops. I like the antique shops. I like just walking up and down Whiskey Row. Whenever we have guests from out of town, we still enjoy the historic district. This is everybody's hometown. That's what it is. I love Prescott. I love the people here. I just don't feel like this hotel is something we need on Whiskey Row. And the rest, everybody said, so I'm just going to keep this short. Thank you.
Glenn Bevilacqua.
My name's Glenn Bevilacqua. My experience is I'm currently a real estate appraiser in this area. I've also been involved in community development projects many, many times. And I'm also one of the owners of the Palace, so I have some interest in Whiskey Row. As evidenced, thank you, as evidenced by many cities in the U.S., decline takes place not from usually a significant event, but the culmination of small concessions and changes. And I implore upon you, because this project talks about concessions, that it is your responsibility as our officials to not make any concessions. That will lead to other concessions, I guarantee it. Based on all the available data, there's the first and second proposals involved requesting concessions, which tells you a little bit about the character and intent of the project. Now, understand that the development of real estate is to create value. So on Whiskey Row, hotel rooms will rent for a lot more money, will create more value. As has been pointed out by several people, there are other locations for hotels. So this benefits the bottom line. I knew we would hear that it benefits the community. You can always make that argument, but the bottom line is the development of real estate to create value, and higher rents in commercial real estate relate to higher value. So I think the responsibility to, first of all, I understand property ownership rights, and no one here is objecting to what people can do with their property. But again, we have as elected, or you as elected officials and the appropriate building departments, you have the power to make sure that concessions are not made. And that's really my big message here. I clearly understand this hotel will actually increase my bottom line at the Palace. I'm not foolish. But Whiskey Row deserves our respect. In the entire state of Arizona, it's arguable that there are two streets that are the most historic. One obviously in Tombstone, the other one right here in downtown Prescott. And if you don't fight to preserve that,
30 seconds.
You're not doing your job. And you're not serving the community. So I think I've said enough. Thank you very much.
Bill Fields.
Good for you. My name is Bill Fields. If you look to the right there, on the building to the right of this proposed hotel, our family has owned that building for over 60 years. It's currently occupied by Arts Prescott, who's been there for 27 years, and the Bernardini Group is upstairs. I believe that a lot of these drawings are deceiving on how they're presented. Anybody want to borrow this? They can look. A few concerns I have is the plan does not show the total square footage of the buildings. I've strongly suggest a 3D model of Whiskey Row on scale be presented. With computers nowadays, it'd be easy enough to take care of something like that. My biggest concern is the basement of our building. Now, a gentleman earlier discussed about the footers on either side of this. Our footers are 120 years old. That building is built on rocks, stacked rocks. I'm very concerned with construction going on right next door, that it's going to compromise our building and it's going to collapse our south wall. A lot of towns have what's called a view shed. On the second floor of our building, we have several windows. We just spent $15,000 a couple years ago on putting new windows on the south side of the building. So we're going to lose our view shed. Now, if our building burns down, can I build a building taller to block his windows? Also, in the plan, there's 2 reserved parking spots given up right in front of our building. Isn't that convenient? Now, I know the St. Michael's Hotel has a parking pullover on Gurley Street, but the St. Michael's Hotel has been there for 100 years. So I don't think we should grandfather them in, but not just allow that, and especially with the parking needs that we have downtown. There's also trees on the front of this picture, and I don't recall any trees on Whiskey Row. On one of the pages, it shows a fire lane going, you have a 3-foot section between the buildings now for fire code, but it shows it blocked on the end. Now, a few years ago, the Forest Service did a survey work around the Ponderosa Park, and somebody had their porch hanging over Forest Service land, and they made them take that porch off. And on this picture right here, it shows the elevator shaft over our building. You can all look at that. You know,
That's time.
just read Brad Courtney's book. Whiskey Row, after the fire, was built from the ashes of the fire. And you can look under our basement, and on the Arts Prescott building or the old Green Frog building, we have a 6-foot basement underneath with an exposed wall on the south and north side.
Okay, sir, your
And it's
time's
going to
up.
compromise our building on this.
Your time's up.
Thank you for your time.
Bobby Fields Jr.
Hi, Bob Fields. I'm consultant for the family building that my brother is president of. I think that I believe that people should have the opportunity to build, but then I think they should take into the consideration, big consideration on what they're going to build and stuff. I know Jim is, where are you, Jim? Oh, there you are. Hi, Jim. I think that Jim is headed in the right direction by shaving off that top there. I know that it kind of jumps out at you, and I would like to know more about this. Oh, I'd like to know more about the, thank you, of the soil testing and stuff like that. And I understand the building that he's talking about, the parking garage was built that way, down across from the Bashford House on next to the Dinner Bell. They use that type of construction. It's very quick and it does a lot. I think that there are considerations to be taken whether Jim completes this project or not on moving the traffic around and stuff. I think that it should be given a lot of consideration. But I think that if Jim builds a model and stuff, the proof is in the pudding, and I think that would do a lot to have everybody be able to look on both sides. I look at that and I go, "Woo!" And it really does stand out and stuff. But I think Jim's heart is in the right place in wanting to deal with the public here. But I think that we need more information, and I need to see some more plans and drawings of the thing. But I think building a model is a darn good idea. I've built a few models myself. I'm not offering my services, but what my brother Billy says about computers and stuff like that,
30
it can
seconds.
be done very quickly and do a good job without going crazy. Thank you.
Tony Hamer.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to address this group and also the audience as well. I'm Tony Hamer. I'm running for the 2-year term on City Council. I have really appreciated the spirit and thoughtfulness of all the comments which have come in today. We have a wonderful courthouse square. That's why people come here. That's why people move here as well. I've really appreciated the level of design and architecture which has gone into this building. I've also appreciated the economics of this building as well, not only from the owner's standpoint, but also from the city's standpoint. I appreciate most of all the clarity of the guidelines that we have in terms of preservation district structures. That is very good, and I saw the analysis of compliance here as being one of the major things to come forward in clarity for the whole of the public. So my bottom line is the people need to decide whether some of the variances are going to stop this project or whether there needs to be a repurposing of some of the architecture. But we need to give thought in terms of what Whiskey Row will look like in 20 to 50 years' time. I think it's up to us to provide some guidelines for the future based on what we, the people, want to see in terms of Whiskey Row. Let's not get into the bring us a pebble, no, not the right shape. Bring us another pebble, no, not the right color. So if we can become more specific in terms of what the row will look like in 20 to 50 years, we won't have a lot of these hearings. So planning is needed for the future. We need to be proactive and not reactive to these types of projects. But let's let the people decide on this one. Thank you.
Linda Thompson.
Linda Thompson, Prescott. I can't believe we're back here doing this all over again, but here we are. And the applicant did a great job, either out of arrogance or ignorance or thinking we're so small town that we don't know any better, to point out exactly what he wants to do that we don't want in terms of the big events and the weddings and the big music events. I thought it was bizarre to be hearing him tell us blatantly what he wants to give us and that we don't want. So I don't know where all these people are. I mean, just an aside, where he expects everyone to be parking. He just arrogantly thinks that we're going to just take all the parking spaces that we have just for this, for his hotel. So anyway, I think I'm really saying what people have been saying and are thinking, but please, and also I don't know how, when he bought these buildings years ago, who was in charge of our city, what made him think that this would be something he could just casually bring in at some point. Maybe there was a reason for him to be buying those 3 buildings or whatever, that he would think eventually that we would be fine with going along with this. So anyway, lovely building, put it somewhere else, and please don't build Hotel California here on Whiskey Row. Thank you.
Lois Fruworth.
Thank you. I live in Prescott, Arizona. Lois Fruworth. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Many of the speakers already brought up some of the points that I was going to raise, so I will cut to the chase. I have no objections to this design if I still lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, and this was being proposed for Fountain Square. But I don't live there any longer, and this is historic, as one of the other speakers said. So the scale is too massive, and it definitely gives a clear visual statement to the community of what they think about our Whiskey Row. Given the location, its build, and its ongoing business use, I'm very worried about hampering flow on Montezuma. It's already tough. This is going to make it much worse. I also feel for all the other businesses on the alley, and this is going to hamper their business income as well and their operations. But finally, public parking. We only have one public parking structure, and this is going to continuously tie up a huge portion of us, we the people's public parking. So net, I have no problem with this building. It just doesn't belong where it's being proposed. Thank you.
Ralph Rudarte.
My name is Ralph Rudarte. I'm a resident of Prescott for 84 years, and I don't appreciate changing our city. We have people that come to see Whiskey Row, not Hotel Row. So let's keep it like it is. The building is fine. There's other places to build it. Let's do it. But if you decide to let it go, where they're going to stage all the trailers of the people that going to be working on it. What are you going to do with the employees that work there? Where are they going to park, along with the residents that are going to rent? And then the people that are in Whiskey Row, we're going to ruin what they've got going because their income will come down because of the construction and people not wanting to get involved going downtown to do that. There's more that you can see that you're not thinking about, and that's the construction, where you're going to store the material, and also check on the material that they're planning on using on these so-called pre-built items to see what the fire department thinks about them. I think a lot of it has to do with making it go up easy. Go out in Prescott Valley and watch what they're doing out there. You're going to be surprised. It's okay, but they take a lot of room, and we don't have the room. And the biggest problem is anytime you shut down Whiskey Row, I am going to get that traffic up on our street on South Mount Vernon that we get every time there's something going on downtown. We don't need it. We've got enough traffic. So let's do what the people want. We don't want it there. Leave it alone. He should have thought about that when he bought it, that can I do what I want to do before buying it? We're having a lot of people from out of state coming in, building things, and then saying, oh, I wasn't told we couldn't do that. Or I didn't, do I need a permit, or what is it? So let's not have that happen. Let's just turn it down, let the man go somewhere else, let him sell the property. But we do need a hotel. My advice to him is look for another piece of
30
land
seconds.
that he can build it in. Thank you.
Peggy Ryle.
Hello, my name is Peggy Rio. I've been here 45 years. I'm an import, but I have lived here a long time. And our star in our crown is Whiskey Row. People like the streets. They like to know that Big Nose Kate actually was in that bar. I mean, it is just awesome the way it is. And for someone to come in and put a hotel right in the middle of it, it's almost like, oh my God, take the Statue of Liberty, make it a casino, have her little plaque say, Ladies' Night Friday. No, please do not ruin our downtown. Okay, thanks.
Nancy Beats.
Thank you for giving up your spot. Okay, a few other points. Excuse me, Bill Fields again. I appreciate you giving me your time. Our building, if you notice on the right there, has a 16-foot ceiling on the first floor. Go into a lot of the buildings on Whiskey Row. Tell me how high the ceilings are. On Jim Grissett's building, it appears that the first floor is pretty high. But if you look over the glass entranceway where people walk in, I believe that is the second floor. So it's a little bit deceiving on that. On one of the pictures, and it is kind of hard to read the printout that I did on the internet, but it appears on the fire lane on the north wall of his building proposal that it's blocked on the alley side. Another point I'd like to make, I'm in the alley quite often. There's quite a problem with the dumpster. There's messes in the alley all the time. It's not really designed for public traffic going between the alley and the parking garage. I just really believe that a lot of the pictures and photos are kind of deceiving. Another thing, I believe it was Mike Haywood did a deal on measuring the post office building, the courthouse, but the post office is 20 feet higher on ground elevation than it is on Whiskey Row. So I'm wondering if that's really factored in there. So I think that's something to be looked at. I really strongly believe that a 3D printout would really give it a more realistic idea of what's going on. I know on KYCA yesterday morning, Jim was on, and a couple of the callers called in and said that when you're walking down Whiskey Row, you can hardly see the building. But if you're on the courthouse side, you can sure see it. You know, and so I thought that was a little deceiving on some of the calls there. We are really concerned about our basement footer.
30 seconds.
We are really concerned. But I appreciate the concern and everybody showing up here to showing how much they love Prescott. Thank you.
Jennifer Tucker.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Jennifer Tucker, and I've lived in Prescott area. I'm in Prescott Valley, but I've always worked downtown here. And I work here, and I know that there's a parking issue. I work at Hair Station 105. I am very familiar with the alleyway back there and the parking garage. On multiple occasions, I'm on the 3rd floor parking. If this structure comes in, God knows where everybody's going to be. So parking is definitely an issue. That alleyway is used all the time. Delivery for all the restaurants, cars coming through to park or whatever. So that is a huge concern. You have a beautiful building. It just does not belong here in Prescott or on Whiskey Row. Also, I just heard that the Galloping Goose is going to be a bank. So it clearly states right here that this is going in a direction that we don't want it. Okay, and a lot of people didn't know that. I literally just found out about this yesterday, started walking around and trying to, I wish I had much more time to talk to you people because there's a lot going on that we all need to know about. And another question is why do we want a hotel there? It's going to take away from Hacienda and St. Michael's Hotel. I mean, let's let other businesses thrive. Let these new ones go in another area where they can thrive. But this is a huge issue, and I think everybody, I wish that this was known for more people, especially, I'm only 53 years old, but I feel like the people downtown area, like I didn't know any of this was going on. It was just word of mouth. I wish every business down there that is going out of business, 4 businesses are going out because of this one hotel. And I wish people had signs out there showing, hey, are you guys aware that we are being pushed out of here and a hotel's gonna come here? There'd be a lot more people here. So make things be well known in this town. I don't know how social media or whatever else, but just even events and different things that go on in this town, everybody needs to know more about this. You know, I feel like there's a lot of events that happen that nobody even knows and stuff. And changes like this are huge and we don't want to see it. I have an Airbnb. People come to downtown because of shops, because of restaurants, not hotels. They're going to stay at a hotel somewhere else and they're going to drive down to Whiskey Row. This is not what Whiskey Row is about. I've never heard anybody say, I come downtown because I want to stay in this beautiful hotel. And you're limiting 4 stores and employees and other businesses that people could come downtown for. So everybody really think about this. Like I said, gentlemen, you have a beautiful hotel. It just doesn't belong here. So it's nothing about you. Go to Prescott Valley. We're growing out there.
30 seconds.
You know? So just not here. Thank you.
John Beal.
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Don Bealey. I live at 951 Norris Road, about 3 blocks from here. And I've lived in Prescott for a number of years. I've owned a number of properties with my business partner, including where we stand here today. I guess where I take objection is hypocrisy. If you think back when this building or this property was sold to the developers of this building, they asked for a 5-story building. And people came out of the woodwork, just like they have today, opposing it. And then we have a Hilton Hotel just catty corner over here, and the rules change. That's not right. That's not fair. We also have now the City Hall that is occupying here has the old property over on Cortez Street. And my understanding is that that is being proposed for a multi-use, high-level structure. Again, rules should be the same. This is a private developer who is willing to spend his money on property that he owns, and he clearly is going out of his way to accommodate the needs of the community and the citizens. Personally, I think it's a beautiful building that would be an enhancement to downtown Prescott. I've lived here for 50 years. That building will rival, several, including the Palace and Matt's and St. Michael's. It's a good-looking building. As far as parking is an issue. There's no question about that, but let's use Durango as a comparable. If you go to Durango, they have a hotel very similar to this in downtown Durango, but they don't have a parking garage behind it. This one does. In my opinion, the old City Hall building ought to be a 3-4-story parking garage. But that didn't happen. I mean, city chose to go in a different direction, just like they did here. Again, rules appear to be different. And I would be remiss if I didn't at least bring up the traffic issue, because traffic is a problem, along with parking. I presented to council on 3 different occasions my
30
proposal
seconds.
for a one-way matrix in downtown Prescott to solve traffic issues. People need to be open-minded. Nobody likes change, but change is inevitable. We've got a beautiful town. Downtown is the crown jewel of Prescott. We need to do what we can to enhance it. That's an enhancement. And a one-way matrix, downtown Durango has it. It works very well. It also creates extra parking. So many issues that could be discussed. Again, the gentleman, I don't know him, but he's a private developer, obviously willing to spend a ton of money. I mean, I've owned a lot of buildings and a lot of properties.
Time's up, sir.
And I would never put that kind of money into that building, but if he's willing to do it, let him do it. Thank you.
Folks, before we go on, I have something to say. This is the Prescott Historic Preservation Commission. It has nothing to do with parking or traffic flow. So if that's what you're talking about, please don't.
Lynn Calvert Hayes.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Calvert Hayes, president of Prescott. I'm not a recent or a long-term resident, but I moved here for a reason. I walk that square every day with my dog, and this particular project does not belong in the historic district. This is a district. I completely concur with the staff report, which was excellent, by the way, thank you, and also with the findings, the preliminary findings from the SHPO. I have a background of 42 years as an urban planner, both public and private, and I think Mr. Hamner said, let the people speak. We're the public. We pay property taxes in this town, and the hotel is lovely. However, it needs to move out of the historic district into another area. And as a resident, I want to see shopping in downtown. That's what I go downtown for, shopping and eating. So we should not be catering to tourists. The tourists can come to the outside areas and come into the downtown, do their shopping. We'll get their commercial taxes, and I won't bring up parking, but I really, Lois, thank you. The parking is an issue, and I'll bring that up to Planning Commission if it gets that far. Thank you.
Stephen Bagnall. Stephen Bagnall.
Hello, I'm Stephen Bagnall. I first came here in 1972 from Southern California, and I told myself, what a beautiful place. Someday I'm going to move here. I was following a girl and ended up working for a carpenter. And in 1983, I finally made the move, and I bought a house on Union Street, and actually the Money Pit. I was a young buck, and I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. But anyway, now I've got it all fixed up, and I walk down to the courthouse probably almost every day. And the courthouse area is absolutely gorgeous, and I've been an investor. I've bought and sold over 300 properties in the Prescott area in the last almost 40 years. And there's an axiom in economics that profit breeds competition. Well, if this hotel goes in, there's going to be other investors that are going to be licking their chops thinking they want to do something similar, and this will set a bad precedent. They'll be looking at it and thinking, hey, you guys let it happen over here, we want this across the street. And so we're going to see a situation that is similar to what San Luis Obispo has gone through in the last several years. Part of my family lives up there, and I visit twice a year. And several years ago, there was plenty of parking downtown. You could drive around, and everything seemed to be okay, and you can go in the shops and everything else. And then in the last, I think, 5 years, the city allowed 2 large hotel developers to build hotels downtown, and they removed the public parking that was available to the people. And now they've installed parking kiosk, where you have to park your car and you've got to walk to a kiosk and pay. They're all pay parking, and many times I've had to, when I've been up there lately, I've had to walk 2 to 3 blocks to get to the downtown because of the parking situation. So anyway, in summary, this would really set a bad precedent, and it's also too high. About I think 20 years ago, there was when the parking garage went in, there were a lot of residents that were against the height of the parking garage. And I talked to Councilman and friend Bob Bell way back when, and he said the city had done a line of sight study, and that you wouldn't see the parking structure from the courthouse. Well, you don't see it from Whiskey Row. You don't see it from the Montezuma side, but you go to the center of the courthouse or the Cortez side, and there's the parking structure. So that was the residents' one of their big concerns at that time. And at this time, that's one of my concerns is the height, and also it takes away the flavor of Whiskey Row. And one of the reasons I came here was for the quaintness of the town and its beauty. Thank you.
Victoria Flores.
Good morning, and thanks to everyone for being here and also for hearing our thoughts on this. My name is Victoria Flores. I am a Prescott Valley resident. I came to Prescott. I am a transplant. I came to Prescott because of the authenticity. The authenticity is the history. And I'm still learning how authentic it is. That the cowboys can still ride in and get a beer on Whiskey Row. It's still on the books that they can come in on horseback. Where in America can this happen except for Prescott? This is the beauty of where we live. I live in Prescott Valley, and I hear this phrase, you're not opposed to progress, are you? Yes, I am. Because, let's think about it for a moment. If California 60 years ago in the 60s was a gorgeous, beautiful place. It was magical. And now the people are fleeing by 10% of the population. We do not want that mentality brought into our town. In my estimation, and I failed to mention, I work in downtown. I work for Whiskers Barkery, which is a block and a half from where this is proposed. Those buildings, I'm not 100% certain, but I have been told that there are tunnels that the immigrants used to bring goods in the 1800s. So that is also a part of history. So digging down not only does that, but the idea that we could be compromising structures of Whiskey Row, if you remember what happened in Florida, due to ocean water and so forth, but that building imploded. All of Whiskey Row could crumble. These are frail, older buildings, and to me, to touch one brick is a mistake. So I implore you, I would like to see every building on the historic register for a 4-block radius, because I'm a block and a half down. Further down from that is Charlotte Hall and the DAV. Those are all still historic. We need to preserve Whiskey Row, which would include a 4-block radius. And this will forever change. We can never reclaim it. This is unique in America, not just Arizona. How many places can you come where an Akron Night is not about a grand piano? Akron Night is about children doing their routines in front of Whiskey Row and in front of Courthouse.
30 seconds.
And music and love, the love of the town. The night I went to Akron Night, I said to my peers, I love my life. I chose to be here, and it's a great place. Please, please preserve it. Please do not go down that slippery slope. Thank you very much.
Edward Bowie.
Greetings. Edward Bowie. I've lived in Chicago for 40 years. I was a developer. I was a community leader, and I developed a town of 60,000 people called Uptown with about 4 or 5 other people. That's all it took to change a town from a ghetto to a desirable place to live. I've consulted with developers of billions and billions of dollars of property. I have 3 properties of my own that I developed. They're on the National Register. I have a little historic background. I was a fellow on the National Trust when it came to Chicago. I'm all for historic preservation. I love historic preservation. It's a great thing. Certain buildings deserve historic preservation. They really do. They stand out. St. Michael's, the Palace, Bucky O'Neill's property down on the next block. Boy, you can't get much further than that. You go down on North Cortez, and half the properties are vacant, not occupied, need to be removed. So here's a developer. I don't know the guy from Boo. Never met him, never saw him. But there's time for change. There is time for change. You don't have to lock everything down in preservation. You keep the best, the very best of what you have. And I've developed in historic districts. I love historic districts. I would love to live on the north or on the west side of Prescott. I totally believe in historic properties. But there is a time when a property built in 1900 of inferior material, occupying a small space, which apparently has been acquired, 2 or 3 properties been acquired by one man. When you consider there's an opportunity here to improve a historic district. Now, does this take away from the historic district, or does it add to the historic district? That is the question. That is the question you guys have to answer. And a historic district could like the one woman said about making it a little bit larger and trying to improve Cortez Street.
30 seconds.
Would be a really good idea. So you've got a lot on your plate. This property could be redeveloped, in my opinion, and it would be favorable to Whiskey Row. Thank you.
Austin B.
Hello, my name is Austin Mattel. I'm a little nervous, so if I stutter, I'm sorry. First, I would like to say thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I have lived in Prescott for most of my life, along with my grandparents. I've seen the town, our town, change much throughout the years. Some changes have been positive for the people of our town, while others have been less beneficial. Today, I see more traffic, crowds, and construction than all my time living here. Our small town is not so small anymore, and I soon fear it will lose the uniqueness and charm we have all come to know and love. On the topic of a new multi-story plaza hotel being built right in the heart of our beloved Whiskey Row, I do not believe this to be a good idea. While new businesses may come and go throughout our lives, and while I am not opposed to something new flourishing in the existing structures that currently stand on our historic landmark, I do not believe that demolishing the imagery and memories of which now stands will retain our history and unique charm. I do not have an issue with the developer himself and wish him success on his other projects, but this is not what the people of Prescott want or what we believe in. There are already multiple small, charming hotels located in the same area as this proposed project. Who are we to allow this to go through and take business away from them? There is even a newly built Hilton Garden Inn just down the street from where we now gather. Recently, I saw a bumper sticker that said, "Don't California my Arizona." I think this rings true now. If we, as a community, don't come together when the very heart of our town is being threatened with demolition and expansion, then I ask, where does it stop? The council I have the honor of standing before now is called the Prescott Historic Preservation Commission. I ask you, is this proposed project historic? Is it preserving anything to our beloved town and community? That is all. Thank you.
I have a few cards to read. The first one is Jess Phillips. Would you like to speak? Okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Jess Phillips. I'm pretty new here to Prescott, but not new to the experience of standing in front of a city council, which I love. So I'm asking just a few questions on the hotel itself. The full timeline has never actually been given to us as far as how long it will take from ground break to completion. As we know, we have a lot of holiday events all year round throughout the downtown, from the marathon to the off-road, all that thing. So if this will be for at least a year, that will be through every event that we are famous for, just giving a little sting when you arrive on Whiskey Row and there's a giant hotel being built. Parking has also been mentioned several times, so we know that that's a huge issue. I think the demolition safety is a giant issue for the man that quite a few people own property right around here. Definitely building into that granite is a safety issue. I think well more measurements need to be taken and looking into it. I come from a city that I've heard the same thing from a hotel being built next to a historic restaurant that sadly was completely taken down from the infrastructure because they just went a little too far, is what they were told. So definitely to all the structures around, a major concern. And lastly, realistically, obviously you own this property, sir, so you do have a little bit leeway, but you keep mentioning community, but that doesn't look like our community. If you want to bring something to us, what would it be? A wine bar at the top doesn't speak Prescott. So really think about maybe having a community involved. Not even a restaurant sits at the bottom, nothing that speaks to us that we can walk in. So we're looking for this community. The Whiskey Row is a district of a community that represents us, not tourism to come stay down and stay on top, but to come enjoy it, either shopping, like people have said, maybe a restaurant, but anything for a community. And lastly, as this is the historic part of this, in the beginning we were mentioned that in the 90s was the last time that we have done a historic registration opportunity. It sounds like this is another time to re-register or look at buildings on that row, as she kind of winked at. Thank you so much.
Candy Folsom.
Hello, my name is Candy Folsom, and I'm a graduate of Prescott High School and a summer resident. My husband and I, we have now many families and friends who have bought second homes here in Prescott because they love downtown Prescott, the Plaza, Whiskey Row, all the historic parts of it. As I was hearing other people speak, because I know nothing about development, hotels, nothing. But as I was hearing other people speak, I was reminded when Bill Grace wanted to build the Prescott Resort way back when, and I know there was opposition, but when he planned all that, he did plan for growth of, parking and all the necessary things, no traffic problems, things like that. So I just want to say that I agree with a lot of the people that have said that is a beautiful hotel. It looks like it would be awesome somewhere in Prescott. But I agree with so many of the other people that spoke today that it would not be a good place to have it on Whiskey Row. Thank you.
Okay, now I have some cards to read. At the last meeting on proposed hotel, it was brought up that the building is currently eligible for National Historic status, greater than 50 years since rebuilding. Was this done? If not, why?
Good point. I can speak to that. It's a good opportunity to speak to that. So again, Kaylee Nunez, Historic Preservation Specialist. I feel honored to have gotten this position at the beginning of January. Took over from Kat Moody, who did it for about 10 years. And then the prior preservation specialist, Nancy Burgess, did it for about 20 years. So the answer to her question is simply comes down to resources. So, the city, my job is a part-time job. There's one person, there are over 800 properties currently on the register. So definitely something we'd like to look into. It's just we have to prioritize carefully with, one person part-time. So that is all I have to say on that topic.
Thank you. Paris prevents buildings from being taller than the Eiffel Tower. Why can't we stop buildings from being taller than the historical courthouse? We do not need a 5-story hotel. This one was written by Deborah Dial. What is the need for another hotel on Whiskey Row? Who is protecting the interests of the current hotels? The impact of this hotel far exceeds half-mile of proximity to the site. That impact is not positive water use impact. Hotels use a ton of water. Applicant has not met the criteria of historical preservation. Spend the money to fix up the existing building. Neil Dial. Is there a development preservation plan for Whiskey Row? What is it? Whiskey Row is the art of historic Prescott. Sorry, the heart. The disruption to this street is incalculable. Use the vacant corner on Goodwin. Question regarding parking. 55 rooms plus common equals approximately 75 cars total. Where will they all park given the parking structure is filled on weekends? Who will pay if additional parking improvements are needed? The taxpayer. Does not seem fair. Taxpayers would have to cover any parking improvements for a private developer. That's all of the comments.
Thank you, Sarah. So I just want to bring up a couple more points before we open up to the commission again. Failed to mention precedent in my presentation. So, it's been the old City Hall site. This is new City Hall. So we all know that will be redeveloped sometime in the near future. We don't know when. Also, that vacant lot on Montezuma and Goodwin, again, no plans for it, but I understand it is able to be developed now. There was a moratorium on it because there was a petrol station there in the past. So we're kind of at a pivotal time for the Courthouse Plaza. So I just want to reiterate that to the commission and the public that, we need to carry the same set of standards across the board, which I have full faith that you will. This is just, an especially sensitive time for this district. So also, I wanted to reiterate, I'm open to any more ideas on outreach. We, did send out over 1,000 mailings, did front page of paper. I do not get on Facebook. That's not one of my tools. I have been active on the Nextdoor app. So I welcome any other ideas for outreach. And also for the commission, we are tasked with providing direct and substantive feedback today. So if you have any more pointed opinions or directions to give, that would be great. Thank you.
Commissioners, anything to say?
Jim McCarver, this, as you know, this is an informative. We're not voting on this issue. I did want to thank Mr. Grissett for bringing his commercial venture, and I think he's trying to keep our city center vibrant with his commercial building. As I'm sure you're aware, we have published historic preservation plans, and in my opinion, they lay out fairly specific guidelines for new construction or remodel to anything in the historic district. As stated in the plan, it was a good sentence that I thought was worth repeating. The district represents a cohesive history of architectural development in early Prescott. All these great buildings were built after the big fire. And being on the commission, it's my feeling that it's of utmost importance for us to maintain this historic integrity. We've heard a lot of issues, and I really appreciate everybody's comments. Some things are in our purview, some things are not. The parking issue is not just anything that the engineering issues are things that we don't address. My concerns from a historic preservation commissioner are two things. There is not a precedent in downtown Prescott for buildings over 3 stories, 3 floors high. There's not any guidelines for things above that, but I think that, in my opinion, that precedent is important. And my other concern is that by guidelines, setbacks are not allowed above the first floor. All the buildings are straight up. St. Michael's, the Masonic Temple, the Knights of Pythias building, and I think that that's another precedent that, in my opinion, it would be important to preserve. There's obviously the palace has a little bit of a second-floor balcony. The Masonic Temple has got a small, very small second floor balcony, but I think the guidelines would suggest no setbacks above the first floor. Thanks.
Anyone else?
I made a comment when we were sitting here before everybody showed up about the generational makeup of the room. It was really nice seeing a couple people come up who are on the younger side, who have an interest in our town. So that was really nice to see, one way or the other, how they believe. But I like younger people getting involved with our city. It shows some people care. So thank you guys.
Well, I guess shall we do any updates or?
Update is, we are working on the Historic Preservation Master Plan update because the one and only version was done in 1998. Again, Kat Moody is assisting with that, which is very great because we have limited staff power. So we'll be starting outreach in conjunction with our general plan outreach later this summer. So stay tuned for that. And that is all I have today. And thank you all for coming, for taking time out of your morning to speak on this. Thank you, commissioners.
You're welcome. Then I call this meeting adjourned.